of her look to the Hottentots of Africa. And she said, well, there is some that her forefathers had come to Earth a long time ago and had mated with the Huns. And at that time, an offspring of that later developed because the Huns then came together with the African natives that were there and created the Hottentots. So this, she said, was one of the original origins of her particular race through that intermixture. Billy noticed right away some unusual language going on that came to mind. He was curious about the different languages that they spoke. And he asked Semjase, on the Pleiadian world, is there a name for the language that you speak? And she said, yeah, they call it Sarat, S-A-R-A-T. And they also know another language they call Kosan, K-O-S-A-N. And this was the Kosan language was a universal language that most all ETs and highly developed intelligences were aware of. And it was a universal language they could all communicate with each other. Meiers' home language, from where she came from, was called Jenan, J-E-N-A-N. This was Meiers' first time on Earth. So Semjase is kind of commenting to Billy, take it easy on her, don't ask too many difficult questions, that she's here to help out a little bit, and don't make things too difficult for her. Just a quick aside here, on Good Friday on 1976 was a chance for Billy to actually record the sound of the ships. Normally they fly rather quiet. You can't hear anything except maybe a real faint kind of whining sound occasionally, because the protection screens around the ship hold the sound from going out, so you can't hear the thing. You can't see it, you can't hear it, you don't know if it's there. Well, Billy was driven out to the site by Hans Schutzbach, where he's going to record the sound. He gets his recorder out, he goes out into this open area, and he's just standing there with his hand up in the area, and Hans is way back over by the car. But even Hans can hear the sound clear over where he's standing. Hans doesn't get to see anything, which is a little frustrating for him, but he can see Billy out there, and Billy's waving, his hand is motioning, and the sound gets a little bit louder, and he records for about 10 minutes, and then he makes kind of a wild gesture for them to stop, and the sound goes away. He's told then later that the sound was caused by the rotation of the outer parts of the ship as it hits the air. So apparently something is spinning. For myself, I didn't know that the Pleiadian ships would spin, and I'm not so sure that they do. It might be energy kind of whirring around the outside of the ship or coming off of the ship. I'm not really sure about that. But it could be maybe the outer edge. There could be maybe on the ring on the outer edge of the ship, maybe something actually does spin. I'm really not sure about that. Anyway, one of the interesting things was that, again, apparently Billy had been followed, because just as he's finishing up taking his sound recording, a car pulls up and there's a couple of police officers in it. Another car pulls up and it's somebody else, and suddenly there's like a half dozen people looking in the bushes and looking around to see what's going on with Billy. So he's having a very difficult time at this point going anywhere without being followed. Let's move forward now to the 63rd contact, which was Wednesday, September 22nd, 1976, a day after my birthday. My birthday is September 21st. Semjase tells Billy that it's been a month or so that since she's seen him, she purposely stayed away because of his poor health. Apparently Billy's been sick, he's been in bed, he's gotten himself terribly run down, and he's not able to handle the work of his mission. And she kind of gets on him a little bit about that, because repeatedly they're telling him to be more careful with his health, not to overwork himself, that he's going to jeopardize the entire mission if he doesn't take a little better care of himself. So he kind of shakes his head, yeah, okay, yeah. Billy was never much one for taking care of himself, so it didn't mean much to him. On this particular landing, Meiers' ship also comes in and sets down the way Billy asked and leaves a burn spot on the ground. So Billy wants to take a picture of that, and he finds out also that Meiers got a beam pistol, some sort of beam pistol, and he asked if he can also take a picture holding that. He thought that'd be great fun to take a picture holding the gun and then take a picture of a tree that he'd cut a tree down or shoot a hole in a tree or something. So they said, yeah, that would be possible, that they would arrange for that. It was on this contact that Semjase tells Billy that Spath, whom he had his first contacts with, was her grandfather. And Billy's very surprised by this. He didn't know that. He really never knew too much about Spath. but he was kind of surprised, and he says, yeah, Svath disappeared on my 16th birthday, and I always just assumed that he probably died. And she said, that's correct, he did, and that was her grandfather. He inquired about the unusual ship that Svath came in because it looked like a pear to him. It was an unusual form. And she said, yes, this ship was a present to her grandfather, and it was from a race of people in Sirius. Apparently in the Sirius area they have 2 planets there that inhabit human life. On her 64th contact, which is Saturday, October 2nd, 1976, Billy's decided pretty much he's not going to go public, and he's explaining this to his group. He just can't get himself to do it. He's very frustrated about all the negative thinking that's pushed out against him whenever he tries to go public. He made a couple of attempts to show slides and show people. He's offered his reports to numerous authors, writers, and UFO people. Instead, for the most part, they seem very opinionated and aren't really open to his thinking, and they don't believe him. They make fun of him. So he's finding that this really isn't getting anywhere. A lot of people are hearing about it. He's getting a lot of publicity in the newspapers and magazines and on radio. Some of it okay. Hardly any of it is positive. Most everybody's calling him crazy and a lunatic and so forth. So he's really kind of giving up on the idea. And Semjase has a talk with him and says, well, she's trying to build him up again, how important the mission is and how important he is to the future of the earth itself, and that he is a great prophet, and it's important that he get all this information out. And Billy's just exhausted with it. He's having a lot of trouble with his family. There's a lot of pressure on him from his wife and his family and his friends. He still lives in Henneville, Switzerland, and he's having a lot of trouble with the townsfolk. So things are very difficult for him. Well, Semjase tells him at that point that they're very interested in him. They're very interested in him going and taking this to the public, and they're pleased that at least so much information has gotten out so far because they want to examine our reality. They're openly admitting now and starting to admit to Billy they really don't understand too much about our cause and effect, that they're not real sure how we're going to react to things all the time. They don't seem to be very tuned into our logic. You know, us little earthworms down here, we have our own way of doing things and solving problems, and the Pleiadians don't seem to be tuned in very well to that. And now they're telling Billy that a lot of what they've been doing is pushing Billy to go public almost as an experiment. They wanted to see, for one, if Billy would actually go through with it and what the public would really think of it. They're very interested in trying to see if the information would go worldwide because they want to look at the responses of the people to see if mass consciousness can actually be stimulated. They say apparently they're forbidden to actually one-on-one get into our innermost thoughts. They can't sample our independent thoughts. It's like an ethics thing with them. But they can, and apparently they were, through Billy, trying to impose their will a little bit on the mass consciousness of the public to see if that might be possible. And they're mentioning to Billy that it's kind of important to them that they find this out by 1977, and they're not telling him why 1977 is very important. But she tells Billy that they're regarding him actually as a success because the information is getting out. There's a lot of coverage on it. The pictures are causing quite a stir. Most people have, in Europe, the few people that have seen his report notes don't agree with it or are voicing a lot of objections to some of his numbers and his philosophies and so forth that are stated in these contact notes. But the pictures seem to be making inroads into governments and different organizations who are taking it seriously. So the Pleiadians were very pleased about that, in that the Billy's UFO contacts have made more impact than all the UFO groups have had over the years. And that's kind of true. Billy's probably more well-known than all the UFO groups anywhere. More people know about the Billy Meier UFO case all around the world than any other UFO case. Billy's also apparently looks kind of like been a test case. They've been watching the probability that Billy himself would be able to keep going on his mission without acting against them. Apparently they've had problems with that in the past, but those that they've selected have not turned out to be very loyal and sincere. And they said there's a 34% chance that he would have acted against their wishes and caused the mission to fail, but Billy's not done that so far. He's hung in there real well. So they were very proud about that, and they were very happy about it. So they are doing kind of their own little lab testing, and it's becoming more and more apparent that Billy and his group, apparently, and all of us, are something of an experiment, really, for the Pleiadians. That's probably the main reason why they don't land on the White House lawn and show themselves in force. They don't have any intention of doing that. And thank you, I'm glad that they don't. This is our planet, after all, and we have to solve our own problems. I mean, it's fascinating to see a ship and think about maybe going for a ride in one, but I really don't want to race from a long ways away with a different morality and a different sense of ethics telling us what to do or imposing their will on our society. And you know, if they let the ships be seen all over the world, that it's going to cause a lot of panic. Many people are going to worship them. A lot of other people are going to take everything they say totally serious. And that's going to really impede, terribly impede, the ability for us to build our own future. We have to learn to be responsible for ourselves. We really don't need no babysitters. So this is my planet. Stay off of it. Okay. On our 65th contact, which is October 23rd, 76, they reiterate a little bit that they're happy with the way things are going, and that they don't want Bill any longer to worry about going public. As a matter of fact, now they've got a new attitude, and they want him to start protecting himself, because now they're saying that so many people are finding out about it that there are many groups out there wishing to cause Billy harm, and there will be more attempts on his life. So they're telling him to be very careful, and he has a nice long talk with Ptah that day about now staying at home, don't venture too far from home, cancel speaking engagements, stay close, and we'll start watching his security and be very careful. That there are also others out there still trying to bring harm to him, so he's going to have to start watching it. From now on, his message should only be for small groups, and he should look to very serious-minded small groups to get his information out, and let the information from the contact notes start being disseminated in this fashion. One of their main worries, he says, remember earlier we talked about a group of people under Unterberg, and these were people that had flying discs. Ptah again tells him that there are private groups who have flying discs, not governments, but flying private groups that have built their own flying ships, and from the plans for World War II, and they're afraid that Billy will expose them. They've been very secretive for years, hiding out, and they're having their own effect on the world, and they're hoping to grow in power themselves and start to overtake the world or whatever. A man named Dunberg, who is a German, heads the Brazilian group, and they're after Billy. They're trying to kidnap Billy, and there's been 3 attempts by them on Billy's life. So they're telling Billy to start staying close to home and don't get out. On the 66th contact, Wednesday, November 10th, 76, a nice thing happens. Herbert Runkle gives Semjase a teddy bear. And Billy brings it to the contact, and it's in a little box, and she opens it up, and it's a cuddly little teddy bear, and she just loves it. She thinks it's really cute, and normally she will not accept any gifts, but she likes this, and she takes the teddy bear. So somewhere out in the cosmos, there's a speeding beamship flying along with a little teddy bear sitting on the dashboard. There was a comment about our astrology not being accurate enough, that we round things off too much to the minute, sometimes to the hour, when we should learn to be more accurate by the seconds, and we probably will once our technology advances. Once we're able to sense radiations from planets more accurately and do it, scientifically, then astrology will probably pick up. She did mention how important it is at the birth, that the moment of birth isn't when the body comes out. The moment of birth is at the point which with the head, the soft spot on the head, actually first breaches the air and the radiations immediately hit the head. So it can sometimes be minutes or afterwards before the body actually comes out, and they felt that was very, very important. The symbol of Era, which I'll draw for you on the exhibit drawings, you can see, looks kind of like a right parentheses and a 0 with a dot in the middle, and then kind of like a plus sign over an E. This is the symbol of the planet Era, and Semjase mentioned that the symbols of her planet and most all the other planets go back to their forefathers, who created all these images based on the radiations of the stars. That there's a whole set of symbols, and our current day astrology is still centered around most of those. That most of those images have worked their way down now for 12,000 years and are still found here on Earth. Semjase is praising the members of Billy's group for helping him with security. There's